Welcome to Sakshi TV special immigration show with attorney Mr. Chand Parvathaneni from Managing Attorney at law firm of Sim Parvathaneni and Brown. Please note that Sakshi TV now has 3 immigration shows every week on Tuesday at 3 p.m. EST with attorney Ms. Sheila Murthy, at Wednesdays at 5:30 p.m. EST with attorney Prashanthi Reddy in English, and on Friday at 6 p.m. EST with Banu Ilindra. Please tune in to ask your questions. If you are an immigration attorney and would like to join our special shows, please email us at usa@sakshi.com or call us at 866-725-7441. Before we begin the show, please note that the information provided on the show is not a legal advice and for general information purposes only. Sakshi TV or its agents will not be responsible for the use of information. If you need specific legal advice, please contact the attorney directly. Mr. Chand needs no introduction, but if you need consultation, please log on to spblawfirm.com for contact information. When you connect with them, don't forget to mention Sakshi TV. From beginning, spblawfirm.com has put a wealth of free information and online tools in the hands of immigrant community and for the benefit of US employers. The www.spblawfirm.com provides you with the latest and cutting-edge information on US immigration law and policies explained in the terms you do not have to be a lawyer to understand. So, today's topic is US travel and new updates this week. We will continue the knowledge session along with the news and updates on latest immigration followed by Q&A. Before we get into the topic, you can call us on the numbers on the screen, and any questions if you have, you can definitely ask us. Hello Mr. Chand, before we get onto this topic, do we have any latest immigration updates this week?
Hello Shivani, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be on Sakshi TV. In terms of updates, the big update is the H1B cap season is just about to start. We're going to have H1B registration start very soon on March 1st. So basically, this is the process. This is the time of the year when all the new the first-time H1B filers will be in the queue, trying to get into the lottery and going ahead. So that's probably the biggest news and probably something that's going to keep a lot of companies and immigration attorneys busy very soon. And in terms of another update, very recently, last month, we had this update about USCIS encouraging the people who are in the green card queue to interfile if they're eligible. So a lot of applicants, they've started interfiling, they've started requesting USCIS to transfer their bases. And that's another thing that is happening for anybody that's waiting for a green card and whose 485 is pending.
Yes. So Mr. Chand, to start today's show, so can you please explain us what is the fiscal year H1B and how many fiscal years H1Bs are available?
Sure. So for USCIS, which is the government agency tasked with immigration filings, the fiscal year starts from October 1st of every year, and it runs to the September of the following year. So for the H1B, in terms for the new H1Bs, the fiscal year starts from October 1st, 2022. It is called as fiscal year 2023 because it goes into the next year. So anybody that is trying to get an H1B for the first time and who has never worked in H1B in the past, the first time H1B filers, so they have to apply for this fiscal year 2023 petitions. Under the current rules, there are 65,000 H1Bs every fiscal year. But if somebody has a US master's degree or above, there are an additional 20,000 H1Bs for people with advanced degrees. And in common usage, this process is called as H1B cap filings.
Yes. So Mr. Chand, can you tell us, are there any exemptions to the fiscal year cap, and if they are, what are they?
Yeah, so there are exceptions. The general rule is that one has to apply under the cap filings. One has to go through the lottery to be eligible to get the H1B for the first time. That's the general rule. However, there is an exception. So there are ways to not go through the lottery and get a H1B. The rule is that if the organization, it's a non-profit research organization or a government research organization or an institution of higher learning, like in university, University of Texas, University of Massachusetts, or any of those universities. And they are non-profit, the not-for-profit universities. They are eligible for cap exemption. So what that means is you don't have to go through the cap, you don't have to go through the lottery. If they want to sponsor, if University of Texas wants to sponsor for a software developer, they can apply any time of the year without going through the lottery filings. So that is the exemption. The exceptions. There are a lot of organizations that qualify and do file H1Bs outside the cap. However, the main issue is that if employees who are working for those particular organizations, they want to transfer. For example, you have an employee who is working in University of Texas as a software developer. He gets a job offer from Microsoft. He will not be able to transfer because he has not gone through the lottery. So you can work for those organizations because they're exempt from the cap. But if you need to transfer and work for a profit organization, one has to go through the lottery, and then only then they will be able to work for those. They will have that additional flexibility.
Okay. So, Mr. Chan, can you tell us when can an employer file the petition for a fiscal year H1B visa?
So the rule is that one cannot file more than 6 months ahead of time. So the fiscal year starts on October 1st, 2022, and the 180-day mark puts us at April 1st, 2022. So one can file a petition only after April 1st, 2022. Even though the lottery happens in March, even though we might get the results of the lottery selections a little ahead of April 1st deadline, the rule is that one cannot file until April 1st. So April 1st is the deadline that one can start filing the H1Bs under the new fiscal year cap limits.
Yes. So, Mr. Chan, can you please tell us how can one register it and what is the registration process?
So previously and historically in the past, one was required to file H1Bs during the first 5 days of April, or until the quota exhausted. So that was in the past. However, starting from 2020, that's from the past 2 years, 2020 March, the rules have changed. Now one does not have to file. They can just go through an electronic registration process to even figure out if somebody has got selected in the lottery or not. So the current process is that every employer who wishes to hire employees on H1B has to register and create an account in My USCIS portal. So it's a USCIS portal. The employer just goes in, registers, and the site is ready to go. However, the site will not open until March 1st, and starting from March 1st, it will let people register. So from March 1st to March 18th, one can go onto the website, pay $10 fee, and apply for their employees. Only the companies can do it. The companies can file on behalf of their potential new employees.
Yes. So, Mr. Chan, USCIS notes exceptionally high number of employment-based green cards available this fiscal year. Can you please explain a little about this statement recently published?
Yeah. So last month, USCIS issued an alert, and this alert encouraged people to interfile. And what that means, to explain that, just to get into the background, October 2020, many Indian nationals were able to file I-485s because the dates became current. But a lot of people filed I-485s under EB3. A lot of people had approvals under EB2 category, but the dates became current only in EB3, not in EB2 category. So what that meant is a lot of people had their employers file another EB3 petition in 2020, and now many of the applicants have both EB2 as well as EB3 approvals. However, what recently happened 2 months back in the visa bulletin is that EB3 dates moved back, EB2 dates moved ahead. So for those people, they can take advantage of their old EB2 approval and request for a transfer of the underlying basis and request USCIS to process their cases under EB2. So this alert basically said that there are a lot of numbers available, and Department of State has been telling that for a couple of months now. It is primarily because the family-based visas were not issued, the immigrant visas were not issued. So all the family-based numbers spilled over into the employment-based categories. And this alert from USCIS reconfirms that fact that there are numbers available. It also reiterates the fact that anybody that could interfile, they should do it. They should take advantage of interfiling and request for transfer of the underlying basis. Again, this process was always there. USCIS, all they did was they reiterated that fact, and they came up with a new address. So in order to route things more smoothly, they said any interfiling requests should go to this new address. And so this alert is encouraging to a lot of Indian nationals, and a lot of people, even though they have been interfiling in the past, this alert has brought about more awareness, and more people are interfiling after this alert.
Yes. So, Mr. Chand, registration for H1B slots starts from March 1st, 2022, says USCIS. Can you please give us more details about it?
Yeah. So, the registration process starts on March 1st, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. So, that is the earliest that the system will let anybody register their employees under the lottery for the H1Bs. And so basically, one will not be able to use the website before that. Another thing to remember is that the website will close at 12 p.m. noon EST on March 18th. So looking at what has happened in the last 2 years, USCIS has been very, very good at stopping the website at that particular time. So it is always a good idea to make sure that people don't wait until the last minute and file well ahead of that deadline.
Yes. So, Mr. Chand, what are the common issues people are facing right now with the registration process?
The most common issue that I saw last year was people forgot their passwords, because a lot of employers, they have filed registrations the previous year. You can reuse that same username and same username. And the reason being, a lot of companies want to look at the historical data. They want to look at historically whom they've applied, who got selected, and so on. So even though technically they could create a new username and use it for registration, people try to use their old login, old username, just to ensure that they could see the historical data. That was one of the main issues that I did see last year. People forgetting their usernames and trying to reset it. So the companies will be able to create their username starting from February 21st. So starting from February 21st, at least the companies, they should try to log in, see if they're able to log in. If not, worst case, they might need to create new logins and not wait until the last minute. And the other major issue that we did see last year, and even the year before that, is that the website is not that user-friendly. There is no way to mass upload the data. They have to enter each employee one by one. They cannot upload it from an Excel file or do any kind of a mass upload. And there is not much error checking. So what that means is, there is a rule that says you cannot do duplicate filing. You cannot file for 2 employees from the same company.
Yeah.
Some companies accidentally filed a duplicate. It's an
Yes.
accident. They didn't realize that they were filing a duplicate.
Yes.
So that was another issue, because there was not proper error checking in the website. So that's another thing I think people have to be cautious.
Yes. So, Mr. Chand, we have a caller from Hyderabad. His name is Mr. Chand. So, Mr. Chand, you can ask your question to Mr. Chand.
Yeah, sir, greetings from here. See, my son is working in Cognizant. He stays in Dallas. See, he was actually picked for H1 on the second lottery system, and he was asked for RFEs. So, in last month he was denied visa. Now he has to go for again in this in the March. This March he will go again for the H1 pickup. What are the chances of he getting visa again? If he picks up again, his visa is
So
if his lottery is picked up, then what are the chances of getting H1?
Yes. Yes, Chand, Mr. Chand.
Sure, that's a good question. Yeah, sure, that's a good question. And we've had this issue in the past. I mean, last 1-2 years have been good at approvals. We are not seeing a lot of denials. But previously, during the past administration, during Trump's administration, there were a lot of cases where there were denials. And all people could do is The next year, again file the H1B and try to correct the problem. So having a denial would not mean that you'll see any issues in the future. The only thing is, once there is a denial, they will specify the reasons. They will specify what exactly happened. What are the reasons why they're denying the case? Is it because somebody did not qualify? Is it because their qualifications did not match, or whatever? So the precautions you would have to take is, when you're doing the subsequent filing in this current fiscal year, make sure those weaknesses are attacked, those weaknesses are fixed, and you're proactive in providing evidence that you don't have a weakness in the case, whatever weakness was pointed out the last time. So having a denial in the past will not make your chances any lower. I do not think you'll have any issues with the new filing, unless the previous denial was because of any fraudulent reasons. If they said the previous denial was due to some fraud or something, you might have to be cautious. You might definitely need a second opinion. But assuming it is for like a reason that somebody did not qualify, or the specialty occupation position was not available with that petition, if it is one of those reasons, you just have to make sure that weakness is removed and you show evidence that that petition qualifies.
Yes. Thank you, caller, for calling us. And
Ma'am.
yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello? Ma'am.
Yes.
Hello. Ma'am, see, the company did not actually, they didn't told my son that what was the actual reason for rejection. Because it's a confidential thing, so they didn't let him know what actually, on what basis the denial was happened. But one thing, they said that your document was okay, nothing wrong with you. And he doesn't know actually why he was denied. But again, they told him that they are filing the papers again this March.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
caller. We understand. Mr. Chand, do you have anything to say?
Sure. So a lot of times companies don't disclose the reasons because the denial comes to the petitioner, the employer. So if the employer did not disclose the denial reasons, I would not worry much about it, because as long as there is no fraud from the beneficiary's perspective, from the employee's perspective, I would not worry about the new filing under the new cap. Things could have been anything in that petition, but from your perspective, if there was no fraud,
Yeah.
I would not worry about it for subsequent petitions.
Yes.
From your side, just make sure everything is accurate. You provide that to the employer, and let the employer know there was a denial in the past, and they should be able to handle it.
Yes. Thank you, caller. So, Mr. Chand, DHS announced availability of additional H2B visas for the first half of fiscal year. Can you give us a little more details about it?
Sure. So right now, clearly there is a serious shortage of workforce in the United States, and USCIS seems to be responding kindly. So H2B visas are visas that are typically not used by Indians, because India does not qualify for H2B visa. But H2B visas are for non-agricultural workers, and it is for seasonal workers, not for regular workers like software developers, but more for like seasonal workers. So the good thing is that USCIS came back last, I think it's like about 10 days or a week back, and they said they're making an additional 20,000 additional H2B visas. So anybody that qualifies, typically anybody, any national of any country that's allowed to participate in the H2B program, they will be able to benefit. And the good thing is we have 20,000 additional H2B visas now.
Yes.
But since India does not qualify for H2B, we don't hear a lot about H2B generally in the community discussions.
Yes. So, Mr. Chand, as you said, and also a lot of our viewers were saying that they face a lot of problems during the registrations. So, can you please enlighten us with some details about what do's and don'ts one must follow while doing the registrations?
Sure. So the registration process is very simple. It is a very, very simple process, but one has to be very, very careful in making sure the data is accurate. The registration process asks for very simple data. It asks for the name, the first name, last name, middle name. It asks for the date of birth. It asks for the passport number. It asks for the company's name, the exact company's name, the company's identification number, and simple data points. However, mistakes are possible. The biggest mistake that I typically see is people give the wrong, the format of the date of birth is incorrect. In India, we use date first, month afterwards. Even the passport for India has the date first and then the month. When we are doing the registrations for US perspective, US has month first and then you have the date. So it is very easy to get confused and sometimes make the wrong input in the data entry. So that's a very, very important thing. One has to be cautious. That is one thing. And the passport number, you cannot make any mistake with the passport number. So one has to double check, make sure the passport number is accurate. So those are the big no-nos, because if you put a wrong passport number, USCIS could come back at the time of filing your H1B and argue it is for somebody else and could deny your H1B. So it is very critical, even though the process is very simple, things like your name, the exact date of birth, making sure it's in the US format, month first, making sure there is no inaccuracy with the passport number. So that is very, very critical. And even on the company side, sometimes companies make a mistake. If the company's name is ABC Inc., they have to make sure they use the exact name of the company, not like a short form or anything. They have to recheck their employee identification number. That is very, very important. So even though the mistakes are minor, it could be critical at the time of filing for H1B. So the biggest advice I would give to any of the applicants or the companies is that make sure you double check your data and don't take things for granted. Even though it's a simple mistake, it could cost you. After you find out that you've been selected in the lottery, when you really apply for the H1B, they will deny the case.
Yes. Mr. Chan, you yourself being an attorney, what were the problems that you faced before? Like what was the most common problem that you faced while doing the registrations?
So the biggest problems that we had was definitely to do with date of births, because people, even though we say the format has to be so and so, sometimes people get confused. And sometimes the passports, because the passports have an incorrect format, that is one place where it is a little bit challenging. So we have to kind of make sure, especially when the volume is high during the cap season. So that was one of the big challenges that we had. And another big challenge is sometimes people don't give the data upfront. They give it right at the time of the deadline. So right during the last day or the day before that, they try to give us the information, and they assume since it's a very, very simple data entry screen, we can get it done. So I think my biggest advice is don't definitely wait until the last minute. And again, you don't have to do it on day one, because whether you do it on day 1 or day 10, the probability in the lottery is exactly the same. So don't rush and do everything on day 1. And at the same time, don't rush and do everything on the last day. Try to do somewhere in between. So somewhere around first week, end of first week, or the 10th day. If you try to get everything done during the middle of this registration process, you'll have some time to recover. Even if you make a mistake, you have some time to come back and recover. And that way, at least you get all your filings done timely, and then it's just a waiting process to find the results of the lottery.
Yes. So Mr. Chan, can you tell us what is the probability of winning the lottery right now?
So in terms of probability of winning the H1B lottery, the selection process, to give you an idea, last year USCIS reported that they received about 310,000 H1B applications. We have 65,000 plus 20,000, that's 85,000 slots. So for 85,000 slots, we had 310,000 approximate registrations. So we are looking at probably about 30% chance of selection if things are as it is last year. My guess is right now there is a labor shortage. The economy is doing good in US. There is definitely more demand. So my guess is we will have more filings than last year. So my guess definitely is that we will have more than 310,000 registrations this year. So what that means is, at least in the initial lottery, the first phase, we are probably looking at about 30% or less chance of selection rate.
Yes. So, Mr. Chand, finally, can you tell us how can one increase chances for winning the H1B, especially in the year of 2022?
So the easiest way to increase one's chances is having a US master's or a higher degree, because they have 20,000 additional numbers. So that is like the best way. If anybody has a master's degree, they get two chances at the lottery. They have a chance under the master's 20,000 cap. If they don't get selected, they also have chance under the 65,000, the regular quota. But in case somebody does not have a US master's degree, so what? Another common question that comes up is about duplicate registrations, multiple registrations. There are very, very strict rules against duplicate registrations, and sometimes it could even be a fraudulent registration. The rule is that a single company cannot do duplicate registrations, or they cannot work with another company in concert for a job that is not existing. So if somebody is getting a second registration done through a different employer, one has to be very, very cautious. One has to make sure it's a legitimate company, it's a bona fide job offer, it's completely independent, and it is not something that USCIS could come back and claim that it is fraud. So multiple registrations will increase chances in the lottery, but there are very, very strict rules, and one has to be extremely cautious that people are complying with USCIS regulations. If at all one person has two registrations going from two different companies.
Yes. So, Mr. Chand, can you tell us how does one employer get notified whether they have won or lost the H1B visa?
So USCIS will not proactively email or update the employer. However, what they do is they update the website. So when I say the website, it is the portal that the company has an account with. So the employer has to log in to the My USCIS website. And once they log in, they will be able to see the selection notices. So for anybody that is selected, they will see the status change to selected, and they will be able to download the document called selection notice. So the selection notice will have the name, and it will also have information on where they are supposed to file and the deadlines for doing the actual filings. And that is how the companies are notified about who is selected in the lottery.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Chand, for joining us today. It was wonderful having you. Thank you to the viewers for tuning in. You're watching Sakshi TV with me, Shivani Raj.